Hello, everyone. A very good morning or good afternoon, depending on the time zone you're joining me from. Thank you so much for taking time off your busy schedules and making it to this webinar today. For those of you who know me, you know me. And for those of you who don't, I'm Shanaz and I work with the cybersecurity team at Manage Engine. And I've been with Manage Engine for close to half a decade now, learning, writing, and speaking about cybersecurity. So my learning has been purely practical. I've learned what has happened in the market in the past, where security is headed towards now, and how we are in terms of security at the moment. So I have a few insights. I have a few details as to what we can do. I hope I have a few key takeaways for you at the end of this webinar as to what you can do, what you can implement, and how you can make it better for your organizations, how you can make your organizations more secure than they used to be. And I know and understand that most of you who are gathered here are looking at being managed security service providers, and that is no easy feat. Because if you're talking about managing security for one single organization, that is a whole task in itself where you have to be extremely cautious. Now, if you're going to manage security and provide security services for multiple organizations, there are a lot of nuances to keep in mind. There are a lot of things to implement. There are a lot of things that you need to do in order to make your journey flawless, in order to make your work experience flawless. So this webinar will aim at making things a little bit more easier than what it already is for all of you. And the email ID that you see on my screen is where you can reach out to me. If you have any questions, please do drop your questions in the chat and in the Q&A throughout the webinar. And if you're able to hear me loud and clear, let's do the housekeeping before I get into it. So if you're able to hear me loud and clear, and if you're able to see my shared screen properly, can you please give me a yes in the chat box? Awesome. We have a bunch of responses. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And also, we can keep this webinar very interactive. You can tell me what you feel about a certain topic that we're discussing. You can ask questions. You can talk amongst yourselves. Please feel free to do everything that you want to do because this webinar is going to be a good learning experience for both me and also all the audience that's present here today. And I also see that we have people joining us from different parts of the globe. So it's going to be an interesting discussion, I hope. So let's get straight into it. If you are a managed security service provider, or if you're trying to be a managed security service provider, you need three things. You need a tool that is going to be very easy on people that are working with the tool. Let me get this straight, because as an MSSP, you will be responsible for managing security of multiple organizations, and you definitely don't want to be working with a tool that is difficult to interpret and that's difficult to understand. So we're going to be focusing on how simple a security solution should be for you to have a very seamless MSSP experience. The second thing that you need as an MSSP is clarity in what you see. So if your tool is complicating things out of nothing, then that's not the tool for you. So you need a lot of clarity in the tools that you have. And the third thing is your tool must be scalable and your tool must be able to handle a lot of clients for you. Now, these three things are no-brainers. And the reason that I'm reiterating them is because they should be at the core of your MSSP tool and they should be at the core functionality of how an MSSP tool should function for your organization. So for all the clients that you're trying to manage security for. So we are going to be discussing Log 360 MSSP today. This is the same tool, Security Information and Event Management tool, that I've been working very closely with for the past 5 years. So I've seen the tool grow and evolve from one place to another, and I'm really proud of where it is today, and I'm very happy to be sharing all of that with you as well. So let me just get right into it. So what all should we track and what all can we track? I know this has jumped directly into what we should be doing, and this webinar is going to be extremely like that as well. So we are going to get into what all should we do and how easily can we do it. So in terms of what all should we track, your clients will have organizations that are very, very different. Your clients may have organizations that are very all-inclusive, that may be hybrid platforms, that can have completely cloud platforms, that can have a few requirements that may not pertain to any other organization. In that case, the best thing to do would be to find a solution that can cater to all the log sources that are present there and that can audit and track all the log sources that are present out there. So you will be able to audit and track about 750 plus log sources out of the box with the help of Log 360. Now, I'm just going to show you what that looks like. So we're going to go into Log 360 now. So this is the solution. This is our SIEM. And you have multiple modules here, and all of these modules are individually packed, meaning you can license for them as individual modules. And if you're looking at being an MSSP, you would be looking at Log 360 MSSP as a whole. Now, if you look at the first component here, the SIEM component, this component is going to help you perform auditing and monitoring and getting alerted and getting notified for incidents and monitoring and remediating threats and all of those things for any different log source that your organizations might have. So if you go into log me here, you're going to get a list of all the log sources that are supported and that are out of the box. So you can see the list of log sources that are present here that you can support directly. And if at all you have a very specific need, if at all one of your clients come in with a very specific niche, let's say we've worked with government organizations who've had custom applications, who've had in-house applications. Now, in that case, you need a robust custom log parser. So all of these log sources that you see here that we can audit, we have written hard-coded algorithms in the backend so that you can bring in all of your log sources easily. So bringing in log sources is also very simple. So you just navigate to settings, devices, and here's where you can simply add devices. You can simply bring in all your Windows devices. And for syslog devices, you can simply enter an IP range and it's going to identify all the syslog devices within that IP range and they'll be identified and they can be added as part of the solution if you want them to be. And then there are Oracle VMs and then there are IBM AS400 machines and all the other devices that you can audit using the other devices tab as well. So once you've brought in all of your log sources and then you feel like there are a few other log sources that need tracking, that need monitoring, you can jump directly into a custom log parsing engine, which is present as part of the search module. Now, the search module is made of Elasticsearch in the backend. So if you've already used Elasticsearch, you will know the experience. I won't be the one to share how it is with you, but I must tell you that Elasticsearch is extremely powerful and extremely dynamic. So we wanted to bring in a part of that here. So we have Elasticsearch as the backend. So your search through raw log data is going to be extremely seamless. And if you want to custom parse log data, you can simply hit the search button here. And this is going to be very helpful if you have multiple clients because they may come with different sets of requirements. They may come with different sets of log sources, and you will not be able, you won't have the opportunity to say no to auditing any of the log source because you can simply parse any log source that comes your way. To just give you an example, you can pick any log that you want and you can hit create additional fields. Now, when you hit create additional fields, what happens is all the existing fields of the log data are visible, and you can simply click on extract additional fields to parse any log field that has not been parsed earlier. Once you do that, a regex expression will be created by itself. The solution is going to do that for you. You don't have to write any regex expressions from scratch. And you can simply add the rule as part of your custom log parsing rule, and all the logs will be parsed automatically. Now, I have a thing about regex expressions. I have a thing with writing regex expressions. If that is for you, you can definitely do it. But for me, the more we automate, the more easier it is, and the more time we can spend on critical things as to looking at differences in our log formats, looking at differences in our log summary, and things like that. The same goes with our search engine as well. You don't have to write all the search queries from scratch. You can simply click on advanced, and you can pick and choose what you want to do with your search query builder. You can pick out log fields, add them. You can create robust and really dynamic search queries, and you can have complex search queries here created by default, and you can run the search for those search queries as well. So this is going to help you drill down raw log data irrespective of your client environment. And this is also going to help you parse log data irrespective of your client environment. Now that we've sealed that part of the deal, now that we understand you can parse anything and everything, you can see data for anything and everything, you can track anything and everything, the next step would be to simplify security. Our ultimate aim is to provide you with dashboards, is to provide you with data that are visual, that you can see and that you can make sure, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. And especially if you're monitoring multiple environments, then you will need a dashboard that's going to tell you what each environment is up to, how each environment is functioning, are there threats to any of these environments, and so on and so forth. So as for Log 360, you will have multiple dashboards that are customizable and dynamic, and you can tweak them to work in accordance to the clients that you're catering to. Because what's important for one client may not be important for another. For example, if you're working with the financial sector, there are a few things that they would want to monitor on a daily basis. And if you're working with a healthcare provider, there are a few things that could be deviant from the finance sector that they would like to monitor. So you can customize each of these dashboards at your individual client's end, and you can monitor them from one room and from one place. So that's what we've tried to do with Manage Engine Log 360 MSSP. And this is what we discussed in terms of parsing custom log data. Now, then comes the next stage of gathering analytics, the analytics that you would require to make sure that everything is going to plan and everything is working okay. Now, let me just take you quickly back into the solution. So, as I mentioned earlier, Log 360 has a log management module. It also has an AD auditing module. It has an M365 auditing tab, and you also have a user and entity behavior analytics module, and you have an exchange reporting module. You have a cloud security module, and you can have a data security module if you want to. Now, all of these modules will be required for managing your clients, and each of these modules solve their own different purpose. So if you look at the AD audit module, now this is going to cater to all the hybrid AD environments, be it Azure Active Directory, be it on-prem Active Directory, and be it any other cloud platform that your organization is working with. You will be able to look into what is happening. You'll be able to look into Windows Server environments. You'll be able to look into your file integrity monitoring, and so on and so forth. To give you an example on the kind of analytics that we might have, so we do have all the canned basic reports. I'm not going to say no. We have log on failures, we have log on audit, we have, looking at who logged in last. We will be able to provide you information on what your users have been up to. While all of that information is definitely necessary, when we say analytics, we're talking about the broader perspective. We're talking about the bigger picture. Now, I'm going to take you to account management here. And under account management, we have a report called administrative user actions. Let me quickly open up the demo for you. So administrative user actions is an analytics or is a report that's going to tell you what each of your administrators have been up to in the past few days or in the past day where they have contributed to a few events. So what has this been user up to? What has my administrator been doing? So those are insights that you will definitely need. And if you're somebody who works with GPOs in and out, I don't have to tell you how complicated they are. And in fact, we're doing a GPO series where we're trying to simplify GPO management for you. And in that regard, there are a lot of information that there's a lot of things that you will need in terms of understanding GPOs and in terms of making working with GPOs a lot easier. Now, to give you an example, let me just quickly take you into GPO management, and I'm going to take you into GPO history. So what this report is going to tell me is if a GPO was modified, what was modified, who modified it, and the best part here is it's not just the fact that you're going to get who modified what and at what time. You're also going to be able to roll back into the previous position. You're also going to be able to amend mistakes if they are made. You're also going to be able to just revert it back to the previous position with the help of these two values right here. So we have a table for old values of all of your GPOs. So you can look at that and you can say, hey, these were my old values. And if you jump in and look into the new values, you're going to get a table with all the new values, all the new SACLs, all the new DACLs. So you're going to look into the difference between the both, and you'll be able to revert back to the original position of your GPOs if at all an undesirable change was made. So that also makes it all the more important for you to have real-time analytics that's going to actually be helpful and not just track if people have logged on, if people have logged off, if a user has been acting very suspiciously and things like that. And for those of you who are catering to environments that are hybrid, we also have a cloud directory tab separately that's going to give you all the analytics that you will need for monitoring your cloud directory. And you also have what is called attack surface analyzer. Now, this is going to understand what happens in terms of, being preventative. So as a SIM tool, our ultimate aim is to detect, respond, remediate, and investigate incidents. But we're also trying to do our bit in terms of, okay, what can we do to make it better for our clients? What can we do to make it better for an organization that's looking at SIEM or that's looking at Log 360 for security? So if one of your vendors have or one of your clients have a cloud directory, I would definitely urge you to go into policy profiles right here, because policy profiles is what's going to tell you what is going wrong at what part in your infrastructure and how you can make it better. For example, you can simply look at one of these policy profiles here. So for me, I'm just going to take an example. I'm just going to say, okay, if my cloud directory or if my SQL server, for example, that is hosted on the cloud is receiving traffic from external sources and not just internal, I will definitely want to know. Now, in that case, if I click on allows all traffic on SQL ports, I'm going to get two areas here. I'm going to get violated assets. I'm going to get remedial actions. Now, violated assets can tell you what is at risk, but my favorite part is the remedial actions, where you can go here and find out step by step information as to what needs to be changed, what needs to be tweaked at your SQL Server level or at your Azure level for you to eliminate this risk. And likewise, we have policy profiles for more than about for a lot of policies within your Azure Active Directory. And if you look into all of these policy profiles, you're going to be looking at around 750 plus policy profiles, and you can make all of these tweaks in your environment, or you can suggest these tweaks to be made to your client's infrastructures to make the infrastructure itself a lot stronger as a security service provider. So I think that should be at the core, because one thing I constantly focus on is organizations are vulnerable not just because of not investing in the right tools, but because of not having the right security measures in place at the native level. You need to eliminate all risks of misconfigurations. You need to make sure that none of your clients are operating or none of the infrastructures are operating with default credentials or outdated systems or outdated software. And you need to make sure that all of these things that can be fixed, all of these misconfigurations, all of these loosely configured things that can be fixed are fixed at your client's environment. And this specific functionality is going to help you achieve that. Now, if you go into the log management module, there are a lot of ways in which you can detect threats for your clients, in which you can make sure that your clients are completely secure. Now, we're going to be taking a few examples as to what you can do to make it better for your clients. So the first one, let me just quickly jump to the section here. Now, the first one is pretty straightforward. You're going to look at analytics, you're going to look at reports, you're going to look at specific reports and say, okay, hey, this seems to be important. This looks like something that I would want to detect if it happens in my infrastructure. Now, you can do that with the help of real-time alerts, and that's what's going to be configured from this tab right here. So let's say you want to get alerted for something very simple. Let's say you want to get alerted for somebody trying to mess with the Windows Defender that's part of their organization, that's part of their system. Or let's say somebody tries to tweak a firewall policy at the local level. Now, these are things that can happen to any of your clients. And if they want to detect it, all you need to do is manage an alert profile or set up an alert profile. So once you click on add an alert profile, you're going to simply enter an alert profile name, specify the log sources that you want to get this alert for, specify a criteria. Now, here's where it becomes very easy, because all the report profiles that you saw as part of the solution will be present here as alert profiles. And all you need to do is simply pick and choose the alert that you want. So you click on this, you click on save. So we have your alert here. And if you do not want to be drowned in the sheer volume of alerts that you get, and that is one complaint that I've heard from a lot of people, and I've met quite a few people in all my events and trips and in virtual seminars and in-person events, where they've told me, okay, real-time alerts is becoming very redundant now, because it's constant. There is a lot of log volume and we do not know what to prioritize. So alert triage is a real thing. You can prioritize alerts. You can only get alerted for what is necessary, although it seems like it never works that way. We have tried our bit in making it better for you. So we have what is called thresholds. Now I know you know what thresholds are. I'm not going to explain manual thresholds to you, although it's just going to work based on number of events within a stipulated time frame. And we decide on the number of events within a stipulated time frame. For example, if I say 5 logon failures in 2 minutes is a problem, then the solution will give me an alert after 5 logon failures if they happen within 2 minutes, right? But I decide that 5 logon failures within 2 minutes is a problem, and I may be right and I may be wrong. So there is always an edge side to whatever we decide. There's always a side that can go wrong with whatever we decide as people. So that's why we've decided to give it to the machine learning algorithms for us to come up with thresholds. So when you click on smart thresholds here, what happens is you will be able to tell the solution to look out for deviances in behavior. Now, smart thresholds will work based on the machine learning model, where the more you train the solution, the more it becomes better. But what happens here is, if at all I'm a user in your infrastructure and the machine learning algorithm is studying me, is understanding me, is if the machine learning algorithm knows what Shanaz does at any given point in time, then if I do something deviant, then it's outside of my comfort zone, it's outside of my baseline of behavior. And then the solution is going to say, hey, this person has not done this before. And if she's contributing to a volume of events within a certain time frame, which has never happened earlier in terms of the epochs that get trained in terms of machine learning, then the solution is going to raise an alert. You just have to specify the time interval. So I'm just going to say 30 minutes for this user, for this firewall settings being modified. So if the solution picks up something that is not right for this person, that's not right for the users, that's not right for the log sources within 30 minutes, then it's going to say, hey, there is something wrong with this. And if you do this, your alerts can reduce a lot. You won't get alerted every single time someone does something inadvertently bad in your infrastructure. If they don't have any malicious intent, it's just carelessness, then you won't get alerted in such cases, and you will get real alerts that matter. Now, when it comes to the time range, you can choose as to when you want to get alerted, and if you want to get alerted for business hours, non-business hours, a custom time range. But my personal opinion would be to leave that alone, and I would just not mind getting alerted for things happening at any point in any of my infrastructures. Now, you can specify notifications, emails, SMS, configure your email servers, SMS servers, and workflows is where we try and remediate all the things that can go wrong, right? So if a firewall policy is tweaked on a machine, there are so many things that can go wrong. Your machine can communicate with a command and control server. Your machine can pick up a ransomware strain that's going to tweak your firewall policy, that's going to communicate with a command and control server. So all of these possibilities can be eliminated if you have a simple workflow in place. Now, there is a ransomware that's doing the rounds as we speak at the moment. It's actually a malware that's going to help launch Cobalt Strike, Sliver, and other ransomware groups right there. So this malware group is called Bumblebee. It used to be very big and famous around 2020, 2021, and the group is back now doing their rounds, launching ransomware attacks, targeting vulnerable machines. So let's say you pick up a ransomware strain. The first thing you would want is for that machine to just shut down and get out of your organization, get out of your network. And you might want to quarantine that machine and deal with it later. So all of those things can be configured from this place right here, where you can simply select a workflow. We have very simple workflows that are built out of the box. And of course, you can build your own custom workflows. So I'm just going to say disable computer or log off and disable user. So this workflow, I'm going to admit, is not going to curb the entire attack, but it's going to definitely contain the damage of the attack. It's definitely going to stop the propagation of the attack. And that's what makes it special in terms of workflows. And we also have a custom workflow builder where you can build your own workflows, where you can build complex workflows and associate them to alert profiles so that it becomes easier for you to make sure that if a certain alert goes off, you get an email notification. At the same time, some remedial action is being taken in the backend where the alert that was raised was being tended to, where something that is going wrong in the infrastructure has been stopped, and we've taken our first measures to fix it. Now, this is the straightforward way in approaching attacks. Now, this is the straightforward way in looking at getting notified and then stopping an attack. But that is not enough, is it? So, with all the ransomware strains that are out there, with all the different living off the land attacks that are out there, with all the vulnerabilities that organizations have not noticed, have not addressed, with all of these things, the only logical thing to do would be to monitor not just your real-time alerts or not just individual anomalies. The next thing to do, or the next good thing to do, would be to monitor for suspicious events, chain of events. So if something goes wrong at your VPN level, and the same thing or the same pattern applies by the same IP at your Windows user account logon level, and then there's a file incident that happens at your database level, and all of these three things are contributed by the same IP address, then you need to look into the IP address. You need to say, hey, this person is contributed to all of this. These are the chain of events. Now, when you do that, you have a lot of context. So that's what correlation can do for you. So we've looked at suspicious events and we've looked at how individual alerts can lead to a very bad alert fatigue, and that's why we have relied on threshold based alerts. Now, correlation is a chain of events that can be identified in your infrastructure. And the correlation module in Log 360 is hard coded, but it's also customizable. So we have multiple hard coded correlation algorithms that are present out of the box that you can use, that you can tweak to make sure that it works in accordance with what you want to detect in your specific client environments. Now, if at all you want to build a custom correlation rule from scratch, you can do that as well. So let me quickly take you here just to show you what it looks like. So we have multiple threats here, your brute force, your system server threats, you have your SQL injection attempts. And what's more important here is we have living off the land attacks where you can look at a certain attack that can go wrong or a certain thing that can go wrong as part of any Windows environment. Now, there are a lot of PowerShell scripts that can help people accomplish a lot of things within your environment, even if those people or even if your users are just normal users in your infrastructure. They don't have to be admins, they don't have to be local admins, they don't have to have escalated privileges. They can simply be normal users and they can do a lot of things. For example, this thing right here, the VLAN credential leak, I have a PowerShell script. If you want PowerShell scripts that people can write and accomplish in client environments, I have a bunch of them that I can share with you after the end of this webinar, and you will understand that people can accomplish most of these things with zero privilege. Now, when they do that, you need to identify them, and for that, for you to identify such risks with more context, that's where the correlation rule comes in, and that's where we have a lot of these hard-coded correlation algorithms that are going to help you identify, hey, this is what went wrong and this is what's happening. Now, if you go into manage rules and if you click on create correlation rule, you will be able to create correlation rules, different correlation rules based on the clients that you're catering to. And you can simply have these correlation rules created by a simple pick and choose. Now, I'm just going to just pick and choose them, pick and choose a couple of criteria that I want my environment to satisfy for this rule to get triggered, for this alert to get triggered. So once this happens, I can specify a time range and I can actually create an entire correlation rule and I can put it into action. And for every correlation rule that's created, you can choose whether or not to get alerted. Now, this is the second way for you to get alerted in terms of threat detection. Now, these are the textbook ways. These are the ways that are foolproof. These are the ways that have been here for quite some time. We have covered our bases here, but we have to do a lot more than that. So in that regard, if you're already not aware of threat analytics, let me just tell you, all your clients will need it. All your clients should have it. The amount of threats that are detected every single day, it is scary, but it's also a lot of information. We are in that era where we have access to all of that information. If you simply go into any threat feed, and threat feed, for instance, let's just say it's a database or it's a collection of all the indicators of compromise that have ever been detected across the globe. So it can be an IP address, it can be a domain URL, it can be a file hash, it can be anything. It can be any indicator of a compromise. It can be any indicator that led to a threat previously in any attack across the globe. So if I remember correctly, or the last time I checked, there are about 85 million indicators of compromise available on the internet for free. So if you go on to any threat feed, we have our own threat feed called Log 360 Cloud Threat Analytics. Now, if you have other threat feeds, if you rely on other open source threat feeds, if you go into any of them, you can recollect that you can understand that there are so many millions of indicators of compromise available on the internet. Now, how are you going to secure your infrastructure from all of these indicators of compromise? The only way to do is to integrate them or integrate the threat feeds with your security tool, with your SIEM tool. So the minute you do that, if a blacklisted IP, entity, or URL communicates with your infrastructure, you will get notified. if a blacklisted IP, URL, or domain hash is trying to communicate, if a botnet communication is trying to get established, you will get notified and you will get all the information that's present here. You will get what is the threat source, why was it categorized as a threat, what is the reputation score. Now, if the reputation score is high, that means the threat is an all okay threat. You can whitelist the threat source so that it doesn't appear on this list again and again. But if the reputation score is, let's say, 6 or 20 or 12, then that is a problem and you need to look into the threat. So these are insights that you will need, because the first thing that you need to do is to eliminate risks that you know are already out there. Now, the ransomware that I mentioned, the Bumblebee ransomware, there are a few indicators of compromise for Bumblebee as well. If you go into the internet, you can find out those indicators of compromise. Now, you can stop, or you can use your security solutions to stop those indicators of compromise from communicating with your infrastructure. And that is the first step in staying away from known threat attackers. So this is something Log 360 can do for you. And the next step is another textbook step, but this is one of my favorites. And this step is going to help you understand where exactly does this person stand? What exactly is happening in terms of this attack? What exactly is this person or this attacker trying to do within an organization? What threat am I even dealing with? What am I even trying to detect? So in that case, we've turned to the ATT and CK framework. So if you haven't heard of the framework, let me just tell you that it is a matrix that's made of multiple tactics and techniques. So this is what it looks like. So tactics are nothing but attack stages. There are about 14 attack stages, and each attack stage has multiple techniques. Now, I've asked this in multiple events before, but I'm not going to do it today. I will gather that not all of us can have a red team and a blue team as part of your infrastructure. If you do, that is amazing. That's great. You can let your blue team try and secure your organization using all the indicators of compromise or all the techniques that attackers can use to attack your organization, while your red team plays the offense and while they try to attack. But if you do not have that luxury, and if you want to implement the MITRE attack framework for all of your clients, because that's going to help them detect what stage of an attack the attacker is in, you can turn to Log 360 or a SIEM tool that has the MITRE attack integration. So what this integration does is, if you go into initial access, we're going to have all the information related to initial access, all the events that have contributed to initial access. And when I say initial access, it can happen using a web application, it can happen using an email box, it can happen using a phishing link, it can happen in any form. So we're going to identify all the initial access vectors. So likewise, you can identify all these attack vectors. You can identify all the techniques that an attacker is trying to establish within your organization. So all of these are threat detection methods. So we looked at real-time alerts, we looked at correlation, we looked at threat analytics, we looked at the MITRE attack framework. Now all of these are good threat detection mechanisms, but all of them are rule-based. So here's where we need a little bit more. We need that last nail in the coffin, where we want to detect something that we haven't been prepared for, that we haven't anticipated. So that's where the user and entity behavior analytics module will come into the picture. Now, the user and entity behavior analytics module is also what powers the smart thresholds. Now, this also works based on machine learning, where every user and every entity's behavior will be studied in your infrastructure, and there will be a risk score associated with every user and every entity. Now, for this specific user, there is a risk score, and if I click on the risk score, it's going to tell me what is wrong or what contributed to the risk score. You can also get information on what all has this person been up to, what all is this person been doing, what is the threshold, have they breached it. Now, the user and entity behavior analytics module works based on three things. The first thing is time, meaning what time do they log on, what is their usual work hours. The second thing is count, meaning what is the volume of events do they contribute to, how many times do they access a file, how many times do they modify a file. And third thing is pattern. This is where you will be able to pick up anomalies as there are, because if I never modify a file before and if I do it now, that is a pattern deviance. If I always log on using my password, my plain text password, and one day I'm just logging on using my password hash, they're going to record different types of logons, and that is a pattern deviance, and that is going to be picked up by the user and entity behavior analytics module. Now, all of these threat detection capabilities are necessary if you're catering to multiple clients, if you're catering to different infrastructures. Now, all of these modules will detect the threats. And if you look into the workflows right here, this is where you'll be able to remediate the threats. This is where you'll be able to put them back in place. This is where you can try and stop a certain attack from propagating. And you can create your own workflow as well. You can simply drag and drop logical action blocks, and you can simply create your own workflows, and you can associate these workflows to the alert profiles, and that is going to remediate everything. Now, while I want all of this to be enough, while I think nothing else will go wrong, there are a few things that can definitely go wrong, and there are a few incidents that can be detected in one of your clients, in one of your instances, and that is why we have the instant workbench. And this instant workbench was right here in the corner throughout the product, and you can just simply click on the instant workbench to see if there was an incident and what went wrong with that incident. If a threat was detected, it's going to give you all the information on the threat. If it was detected using the threat analytics module, you're going to get all the information on the threat. If you will get all the information on the email box, what happened, what was happening, you'll get all the information on the user, what was this user up to, and what is the risk score on the user, what has this person been contributing to. And you also have processes present here where you will be able to see, okay, what was the process that this person has initiated? What are the child processes? What are the parent processes? Okay, where is this going? What is active right now? Do I stop a process? Do I stop a service? What do I do? So the instant workbench is going to help you collect all of this information. You can export them and investigate them, or you can assign this to IT security professionals. Just by within the solution, we have an instant management tab where you can assign this to IT security professionals and think they're going to look at it, assign a time frame by which they have to work on the incident. Or if you have ITSM tools, if your clients have ITSM tools, you can integrate Log 360 with their ITSM tools. Let's say Service Now, Service Desk, Kaseya, all of these ITSM tools can be integrated with Log 360, and the instant detected here will be present there as a ticket, and people can look into the ticket, people can look into the security ticket and see how to take this forward. So that's where we cover all the bases in terms of security monitoring. So we can collect log data from anything and everything. We can search through volumes of log data using a powerful search engine. We can custom parse log data, and then we can look at threats. We can look at normal analytics for one, and then we can look at elevated analytics. You can look at important reports that you may not get with other security tools or straightforward security tools. And then you can look into getting alerted for individual anomalies. You can look into getting alerted for a chain of events. You can look at getting alerted based on the MITRE attack framework, based on the threat analytics module, based on the user behavior. Now, after you get after you get alerted for any of these things, you can remediate the threats, you can manage incidents, you can investigate incidents. So you can do everything in terms of security monitoring. And if at all you want to manage compliances for your clients, and especially with all the compliances that are coming up in the last 5 years, you and I both know that there are a lot of IT regulations that are new in the market. I've worked on a lot of new IT regulations. I've looked into different IT regulations that have come up in different parts of the world. There was there's if you have clients, let's say in the European Union, you know what they have to comply with now. They have DORA, they have NIS2. If you're from Latin America, you have LGPD. If you're from US, you have your own set of IT regulations. If you're from ANZ, you have your own set of IT regulations and frameworks that you need to comply with. So if your clients are from different parts of the globe, they will have different requirements in terms of compliance. And I'm just going to tell you, we can simply cater to all of the IT regulation requirements. I'm just going to click on the compliance tab, and you're going to see a bunch of popular IT regulations being present here. Now, if I click on one of these, let's say I'm just going to click on PCI. Now, if I click on PCI, I have my audit reports here, and these are pretty comprehensive. And you can ask me, how do you say these are comprehensive? I'm telling this to you because we have a team of people who sit with the fine print, who look at each and every requirement, who go through what is required for what part of PCI DSS, and they put together these bunch of audit reports. Now, these audit reports are going to help you have a better picture, get a better picture of the compliance posture of your clients. You can help them with these audit documents or all these audit requirements every now and then. And this applies to all the IT regulations that they can come up with. And if at all there is a new IT regulation that comes up that is specific to the location of your organization or your client's organization or to the industry of your client's organization, you can easily build custom compliance rules. Now, if you build custom compliance rules, then that sorts it all out for you. So there are a lot of things that you can customize within Log 360 MSSP. You can customize compliance, you can customize reports, you can customize correlation rules, you can customize alerts, you can customize workflows, and everything. Now, with such a robust tool, there comes a point where you need to understand, okay, what is happening at different parts of my client, right? So we spoke about correlation, threat sources, incident workbench, compliance. Now comes the question of, okay, how can I monitor all of my clients in one place? How can I monitor all the clients and manage them from a single console? So this is where we have the unified platform of Log 360 MSSP, where you have the number of clients, where you have a dashboard, and you can perform a few management tasks from within this console as well, where all your clients will be present here. I have only 2 clients on the online demo right now, but if you have more, they're going to be present here. And all the general activities of your clients will be present here. All their licensing statuses will be present here, and that is very important. You can see what all licenses do they have, what all have they applied, and how are they going to work, are they going to expire anytime soon, and so on and so forth. So we have license information here. And you can also have the component details. As you saw, Log 360 was made of multiple components, and what all components are active in what all clients. So if a client has Exchange and if a client doesn't, so this is going to be present here. So you will know what all components have been exhausted, and you will have an SSO status for all of your clients. You will have used license components and so on. Now, when you go into the settings, there are a few things that you can tweak from the MSSP window. And as I mentioned already, the license management part is where you can make maximum use of the solution. So I'm just going to take you to the settings. And here's where you can add and manage clients. I'm just going to click on add a new client. And I'm just going to enter the client name, my client email, the server name, the port, and I can specify the type of connection, and I can specify a username and password and simply add a client, a Log 360 client, to be part of the MSSP window. Now, once I do this, I'm going to be presented with these details here. I'll have a client email and a client URL. Now, if these are your clients, if these are your Log 360 MSSP instances, if you click on this link, it's going to take you to the client window where you can look at what is happening with that client. Okay, what is going wrong? What is the dashboard saying? What are the information that I have for this specific client? So it's the same. It's the same components that you saw, and this is for this specific client. Now, the same thing applies to another client as well. If you have multiple clients, this is an easy way to navigate through multiple clients to look at what each person is doing and what you can do to make it better for these people. Now, when it comes to client licenses, you can view the allocation details. So you can look at what are the licenses that are available to me now as of this date, and what are the licenses that are applied as of this date. So you can manage your licenses better. You can go ahead and edit these licenses from here, and you can edit these licenses between clients as well. So if I go here, you can also look at the client license details for another client. So this is going to make it a lot more easier for you to allocate licenses, to allocate components to these licenses. And you can also see the status of the allocated components. So what are the components that are allocated for this specific client? What can I do better for them? What all components can I assign for them to, comprehend the entire suite and to make use of the entire suite of the product? So these are things that you can do from here. Now, when it comes to technicians, Log 360 operates with multiple technicians, meaning these technicians have a level of access within the product. Since it's a security tool, not everyone needs to have access to everything, and that is very important. So if you're an admin, and if there are people that work with you who are technicians who do not want managerial level actions, or who you do not want to make changes to the solution or the way the solution operates, then all you need to do is create technicians from here and assign them to your clients. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new technician, and I'm going to specify my username and password here, and I'm going to enter an email ID, and I'm going to specify, okay, what role is this person going to do, right? So if I'm going to say admin or operator, then this person has a set of values, a set of roles associated with it. and then you can delegate this to the clients that you want. So there is an operator that's delegated to the client, and this is the name of the operator. So this operator can only perform a set of tasks within your certain client. Now that makes Log 360's experience a lot more secure for the clients that are trusting you with their infrastructures, because not everyone can have all the access to their security information. It's just a few people, it's just a few administrators, a few operators who have measured set of accesses within their client environment, and that becomes really important as well. Now, if you go under general settings, here's where you can personalize the solution, and you can monitor for your server settings, your database settings, your product settings, and so on and so forth. So here's where you can monitor for connection settings. What is the session expiry time? What is the log level? And how much space am I going to give to the disk before it gives me an alert? What are the ports that are open? So all of these things can be specified from here. So this is where you manage all your clients, and this is what all of your clients are going to get in terms of security monitoring. And these are all the solutions that Manage Engine has in terms of MSPs and MSSPs. Now, that has brought me to the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, please do drop in your questions, and I'm going to take them in some time. And if you want a personalized demo, if you want to have a feel of the product, if you want to see what it does, if you have any questions with respect to what Log 360 can do, if you have questions with compatibility, if you have questions with, what if you have a use case, if you think, okay, this is something that I may not be able to solve, and if you have those questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will be taking your questions now. Or you can also write to me at shanaz.n@manageengine.com, and I'll be more than happy to help you with the questions. If you have any questions, please keep them coming in the chat. And also, if you want to write to me, there's my email. You can write to me at shanaz.n@manageengine.com with your thoughts, questions, with your feedback, or with any of the use cases that you might want to solve as with respect to a managed security service provider. So we'll be happy to help. Thank you so much for all of your time, and I'm going to be available here for the next 2 minutes. And you have the great rest of the day. And thank you so much for being a good audience.